Welcome fellow folders, and this video is all about how to make large sheets of paper, combine them together. Basically going to go through a few examples and why this could help. So the first thing is, if you're making your own paper and then you've got your own surface, whatever type that is that you use to make it, whether it's glass, plastic, PVA, a few people have done it on their windows. From what I've seen on Discord, laminated wood. I can possibly even do it on this surface. Any surface that doesn't absorb liquid, it should work. So whatever that could be, a mirror as well, not technically glass, but the same thing. So any surface that doesn't absorb liquid could work. So for instance, I have this example. This is the surface that I will use. This is the size of it. And the main problem that we all have is we have a sheet of paper which can fit on whatever surface. We'll add the MC, let it dry, peel off, good. But when it comes to making large sheets of paper, so we have the surface and we have two sheets. If we do the normal overlap, then as you can see, we have paper that goes over the edge of the surface. And then if you were to MC that, peel it off, then you would need to cut this off. Most likely, you would lose that amount and that amount. So in total, you'd lose about that amount from when you make the square. So is it possible to not lose as much in a way? Is there any methods to do it? Now, there's a few. I'll say the first one at the start because I've never done this before, but would it be possible if we had either two sheets already treated or two untreated sheets? You would put it on your surface, and then would it be possible if you just MC'd the middle bit? No, in fact, this would probably only work with sheets you've already treated because it would be different in terms of shininess. So we'll just say two sheets already treated. You put it on the surface and then you just MC. Okay, it doesn't work. It worked a second ago. So we just MC that part. So this stays the same, that stays the same, and then these two ends will overlap and get stuck together. But the thing is with this, I've never tried it before. If anyone else has done this, let me know. I may actually do a test fold at some point to see how it turns out. But my guess would be this amount would be fine. This amount would be fine. This would dry perfectly. But the part in between the fine and the wet, this may possibly work because the liquid would slowly seep through and spread and probably keep spreading until it dries, depending on how much you add, how thick, how thin, whatever it is, it could possibly spread. So this part would be perfectly flat, this part would be perfectly flat, and where it says paper could possibly work. I'm not entirely sure, I've never done it. If that worked perfectly, then that's the best way to do it so far. So that's something to definitely try and think about. And then that way you won't lose any paper on the outside if it does work, and then you could possibly cut a bigger square, or if you're going for a rectangle, for a model that uses like a 1x20 size, that would be even better. So that is a possibility. The next one is we're going to get rid of the surface, we don't need that anymore. The next one is I will say tape. Now, it's not something I've ever used to join paper. I've never had a use for it. So you'd already have your treated sheets, and then you would just, assuming you would take some tape, let me just do it on this side. Take your tape probably about halfway, so it's half and half. and then just, as best as possible, stick it, and then there you go. Now, I've never done that before. I know Boyce did that for his massive, I think he done it for his massive samurai and the massive western dragon by Kato. I'm sure he done that, so again, if you have done this before, leave your feedback in the comments to see how it turns out. I've never had to do this because I've never really needed to do this. It probably wouldn't work for models that you need to thin down a lot, mainly everything except insects, because there's no point in adding tape to models that need a lot of thinning down, have a lot of layers that you need to try and shrink, because tape doesn't shrink, it will stay the same thickness and you'll have it throughout a portion of the paper. But if you're not making an insect, this will suit you perfectly. So yeah, tape is another one. Now if we get rid of that, let's get two more tests, and this is what I did for Soma Cruise's Niza, because the paper was quite thin. I needed a thin paper for that model, and I needed a way to join them together seamlessly as best as possible. So what I used is a combination of clear glue, in this case Elmer's, and my normal wood glue. Now it's like a ratio, it's like a few drops of this, we'll just say 10 milliliters of this for example, and 1 milliliter of this, so it's a 1 to 10 ratio, 10 being the clear glue, 1 being the white glue. And the reason I do this is because the clear glue, obviously it dries clear, so we're getting the best out of this, so there shouldn't be any marks whatsoever on the seam. And then the clear glue provides the strength, so we have the clearness and the strength to physically hold the paper together, so whatever stress I put it under in terms of folding, creasing, collapsing, it shouldn't come apart. So we're getting the best out of both, and this is what I've always done for thin paper if I have to stick them together. And if it's thicker paper like double tissue, for my Ryujin I only used this because the thickness of it is perfect and you won't see any glue marks through it, because double tissue is a good thickness for that, for hiding parts like this in case you add too much or etc. You won't see it through the paper. So if it's equivalent to double tissue thickness, then you can probably just go with this. Now, I wouldn't just use that itself, I may need to do more tests to see how it holds, and if it does great then I could possibly just use that instead. So get a perfect seam, and I use again the little tool to apply it. I'll just mix them together and then dab, basically put a bit, put like a little dollop, kind of shaking, stop shaking. You put a little dollop and then just spread it. And the reason I do this instead of using a brush is because I can add the exact amount I need throughout the entire seam, whereas if I'm using a brush, more than likely there'll be too much inside the brush, you can only see what's basically on the outside. So when you do that and then stroke, there's too much, and then you try and wipe some away, that'll start to warp, whereas this, I can add the exact amount that I need, and then when I stick together and then check it and then go, oh there's a wee tiny gap here, I can take a tiny amount and then stick it. That's basically it. And then it works perfectly. That's what I did for Soma's Niza, that's what I'll do for Dragon Lord 3.0 and so many other models. Now these methods only apply to if you're planning to make big sheets of paper. Like just say this is double tissue. This is the standard 50 by 70 centimeters that tissue comes. So if you want to make like massive squares and then massive sheet, like 2 meters just say, then you could do one of these methods to stick them all together. Yeah, that's basically it. Unless you have a massive surface like a 300 centimeter square of glass, and then you could just do the normal MC them all together. So that's a few methods. Hopefully you probably already most likely know them, and if you don't, hopefully you've learned something new and you can try them out on your own. And that's basically it. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video.